Evening, one and all. Welcome to the Chris Salcedo Show worldwide here on the Vida television network. Glad you have tuned in. Glad you have made us part of your evening. Some changes coming to the program in 2018. You're going to notice we're going to be with you for an hour. Also, the program is pre-recorded, and we've done this to give you a little bit more of an opportunity to access the program. Now, here's how you got to do it. The show will actually air, which you're going to see here in mere moments, on AM 700 KSEV, the voice of Texas in Houston. All you got to do is call between the hours of 7:30 in the morning until 10 o'clock in the morning and listen and weigh in on the topics that we're talking about. 281-558-5738. Then you tell your friends, you tell your family, tune in right here on the Vida television network in the evening, and you can hear your contribution to the program. Hope this is fun for you, gives you a chance to participate a little more fully in what we do here. So without further ado, it's time for the Chris Salcedo Show worldwide. Happy Friday. Welcome one and all to the Chris Salcedo Show. I'm glad you've tuned in. I think we have to start right off by talking about the offensive, the racist, the completely inappropriate comments made yesterday by a Washington, D.C. politician. Someone you all know and many of you probably disdain. The comments made by Nancy Pelosi, where, well, you think I was thinking of somebody else? You think I was going to jump on this bash Trump train for him aptly describing the results, in many cases, of despotic rule?
Yeah, was he inaccurate?
No, he wasn't. Did he mention race once? No.
No.
Not once. You know who did mention race yesterday? Nancy Pelosi. The leader of the Democrats in the House of Representatives mentioned race. As a matter of fact, a white man, by the way, we should tell you what Nancy Pelosi said. She was, and you know what? I should have pulled that soundbite down, just so you guys could hear it in their own words. But you know, I got to be honest with you. It's like nails on a chalkboard listening to that woman. She made reference to the 5 white guys working on the illegal immigration reform. The clear implication was because they were 5 white guys, they didn't have the ability, because of the color of their skin, to put together a good law. I think Nancy Pelosi owes whites all over the country an apology. There was one racist politician yesterday, and it was Nancy Pelosi. Oh, she's white. She can't be racist. Oh, okay. I had one black troll of the Chris Salcedo Show. We have several black folks that are fans of the Chris Salcedo Show, but there is one who's a troll who said that Nancy Pelosi was incapable of being racist against whites because she was white. So I said, let me get this straight. If a black man said to you that because of your black skin, you were incapable of intellectually completing a task, that wouldn't be a racist comment? That he said that black people, if a black person says that black people don't have the brains to complete a task, that's not racist? And the disingenuous fool said, no, that's not racist. I kid you not. These people are so conditioned to say that it's impossible for minorities to be racist, and the only racist people on the planet are whites. And as a matter of fact, you can be racist against whites with complete impunity. These people have no intellectual heft, no intellectual honesty. So Nancy Pelosi says this racist comment. Steny Hoyer, to his credit, a Democrat, the number 2 in the House, says it's a completely offensive remark, and it was. It was. And then President Trump says his evaluation of some of the countries that some of these people in this working group are continuing to allow and protect the ability of people from those countries to come into the United States. And the president used a rather colorful, and language that we're not used to hearing from a president descriptor of those countries. One Haitian-born Republican is calling for the president to apologize. And I'm thinking to myself, well, if Haiti was so great, why didn't you stay there? Sorry, why are you Haitian-born? Why are you from Haiti? Why aren't you still there? Why are you in the U.S. Congress as a Republican? There's a reason why you left Haiti. Because it was a hole. There are plenty of holes around this world, courtesy of despots, dictators, leftists. They drive these countries into the ground. So people want to flee. It is completely logistical of the United States of America. Logical, logistical, gaming out how you want to set up your country for the United States to say, well, how much poverty do we want to import? Is unfettered importation of poverty in the best interest of the United States of America? If poverty was so fantastic, why not stay in their home countries? That's what progressives are making that argument here in the United States. Well, we must have more poor people here. Why? Because being poor is virtuous. Being poor is great. Being poor makes for a successful country. Oh, okay. Then why leave the paradise of Haiti? Why leave the paradise of Africa? No, there's a reason why. Because the governments there are S-hole governments. They are governments not of, by, and for the people, but usually by, well, the equivalents of Democrats. Those who believe in garnering riches for themselves at the expense of their people. So no wonder I don't blame their people for wanting to leave. I'd want to get out of those S-holes too. Same thing goes for Mexico. Probably a second world S-hole, but still borderline third world, where the drug cartels call the shots, call the plays. I'm sorry. There was one racist comment by a politician yesterday, and it wasn't from Donald Trump. Now, I know there are a lot of, I was on Facebook before I got on. And well, I'm not going to share who these journalists are because they're friends of mine, but they swing left. At best, it's xenophobic. At worst, it's racist. You know what I'm talking about. That's their way of getting around the journalistic integrity thing. And I said, that comment by Nancy Pelosi was incredibly racist. Oh, you're changing the subject. No, I'm not changing the subject. I'm dealing with this intellectually honestly. There was a cat on Tucker Carlson's show last night. Did you watch Tucker last night? Russell, are you too busy watching sports? It was I think he was a Latino. He was a loudmouth leftist Latino. Tucker asked him point blank, no less than 3 times, does the United States have a right to regulate who comes into the country and from where? And the leftist wouldn't answer. And this is how these Democrats and these left-wingers think, ladies and gentlemen, that every country on the planet has the right to tell people they can come in or come out, and many of them want to keep people in from leaving their countries, and they use fences to keep them in. They say the only country on the planet that doesn't have the right to stop people from coming into it is the United States. And the reason why is they believe the United States should accept all this poverty to be just as ruinous as these other third world dictators, despots, terrorists who run their countries into the ground. That's fairness. We must subject ourselves to that type of poverty so it can be fair, so we can be liked. This is how sick and twisted these people are. Not that the other countries should be inspired or maybe encouraged by the United States to change your despotic ways and actually become a government of, by, and for the people. No. We can't do anything wild and crazy like that. That might take away power from a leftist. That might take away absolute power from a dictator, and no Democrat in this country wants to see that, do they? Just ask Barack Obama. Let me be clear. Love myself some Cubans. Well, not the Cuban people. I love the Cuban government. Let's give them a whole bunch of money. And he did. And he sold out every Cuban citizen to bail out the failing communist government of Cuba to make sure it had plenty of money to sustain itself until oil prices recovered, and then Russia can start subsidizing it again. Barack Obama bailed out the Cuban oppressive regime, sided against the Cuban people, went to a baseball game with Castro. Democrats and left-wingers pal around with communists, despots and dictators. They are two peas in a pod, if you will. So the only racist, folks, this is indisputable. This is indisputable. The only racist comment that was uttered yesterday was by Nancy Pelosi. Donald Trump gave, yes, I will give you guys a rather crude and blunt assessment of some of the nations around the world that we're not used to hearing from an elected leader. And I think that's a fair evaluation for many to say, I'm not used to having the leader of the free world talk that way. I'm not used to it. Well, get used to it. Because I'm sick and I don't know about you guys, but I am sick and tired of having political correctness substitute for frank talk and a real understanding of our situation in the world. Sitting there and saying that Haiti is some sort of paradise, you left-wingers are doing nobody a service. And if it's such a paradise, why the heck aren't they staying there? We know that nothing could be further from the truth. Oh, but the president shouldn't say it. Why not? Why not? Well, that doesn't help anybody, you don't think? If the eyes of the world were on these African nations who exploit their people, if the eyes of the world were on the corrupted government or whatever passes for a government in Haiti, seriously, that's not worthy of looking at. And then let's not forget the most germane point, which is, do we want a massive influx of poverty from nations all over the globe? And how does that benefit America again? Now, I believe that America can do everything we possibly can do in a compassionate manner to alleviate as much suffering as we can. But right up until the point where it harms this country. And when it starts harming this country, I'm out. I'm out. Democrats will say we must do more. We must harm the United States of America. And I'm not on board. 281-558-5738, 281-558-KSEB. Hood, I was wondering if you were listening early this morning. Good morning. Welcome to the Chris Salcedo Show. What's going on, man?
Good morning. Good morning, Chris. You know, when I first heard him make that statement, and of course, even the right-wingers on Fox were like, oh, this is going to hurt him. Yeah, it did bother me. But then I started thinking about it. Instead of saying, you know, S-hole, what he should have said is third world S-holes.
Yeah.
And he's right. And he, you know, what I get angry about with Donald Trump, he does have diarrhea of the mouth. He needs to watch what he says around certain people.
Yeah, Democrats.
Like Democrats.
Yeah, I mean, Hood, hold on. Democrats were in the room. He was having a conversation with Democrats and Republicans, and the Democrats couldn't wait to get to their allies in the basket of biased press to pass on what the president had said.
And let's be honest. Number one, Nixon had a potty mouth big time, and so did Jimmy Carter from stuff I've read. And you know, Hillary Clinton used the N-word on numerous occasions.
Yeah, I know.
But Donald Trump, look, you know, I'm still kind of perturbed with this thing on the drilling thing because, you know, it's just me. But at the same time, and I get frustrated when he makes some of these stupid remarks because it seems like every time.
Well, wait a minute. Was it stupid? I mean, I think we just outlined it wasn't a stupid remark. It was
no, it wasn't a stupid remark.
It was fact-based. It was fact-based.
It was fact-based. And Mia Love needs to grow a pair but she's playing to her base.
Mia Love from Utah, ladies and gentlemen. She's a congresswoman
she
from.
She needs to grow some ovaries, as that other Republican congresswoman said. But no, it's look, and she is trying to, it's all PC. Yeah, that's what this whole thing is.
Now look, I think there's fair criticisms to say, look, I don't think the president helps his cause by speaking in as if he were sitting on a bar stool talking with a buddy. I don't think he's served that way because he's supposed to be a statesman as president of the United States. But that being said, let's not sit out there and pretend that what he said was at all racist, because it wasn't. Now you've got Jim. You know who Jimmy Acosta is, right, Hood?
Oh yeah, he's that loser from CNN.
Yes, he is. Little Jimmy Acosta was up in front of the cameras yesterday, not being a journalist because he was giving his opinion again, as if we were interested in Jimmy Acosta's opinion, saying that he believed the president was being racist. It's like, well, that's great. That's your opinion. That's not news, but that's your opinion. But if anybody examines what was actually said, race didn't play into it all what the president was talking about.
Well, and real quick, two points I want to make up that Tucker Carlson made a comment about. Number one, China is a big threat, and he was talking about how China, is basically a big colonial country now. Why does China get a pass for not admitting anybody into their country? Number one.
Oh, because they're good communists. The Democrats don't like to bash communists. Communists are able to do whatever communists are able to do because that is the pinnacle of Democrats' achievement, to be a communist country.
But that was, and that was a great point that he made. And that moron that you were talking about, that
loudmouth leftist Latino, yes.
Well, yeah, he would not answer a question.
I know, I saw it was frustrating, but you know what? That's what these people can't answer straightforward questions because it would reveal their true agenda. Hood. Hey, I appreciate the call. Yeah, you look at these despotic countries, and you look at these countries where people don't have any prosperity, and then Donald Trump asked the question, well, why are we admitting all these people in from those countries?
He just said it with a little potty mouth, and I have no problem with that.
Yeah, you know what? I think it's a fair criticism to say you undermine your argument when you go potty mouth, but I don't think the rank and file Trump supporters mind that at all. As a matter of fact, to a lot of them, they say, how refreshing. Somebody actually says it how it is.
Absolutely.
And what service are you doing for those people in those countries that are S-hole countries that are being exploited by their leadership? Democrats, of course, would leave them to be exploited. But the President of the United States says, you know what? No, I'm going to call them out. Back in a minute, the Chris Salcedo Show on the Voice of Texas. All right, folks, two things. Welcome back. Chris Salcedo Show on the Voice of Texas, AM 700 KSEV. This conversation I'm having on Facebook first, individual who is a member of the media, a left-winger, said Trump specifically mentioned areas that are made up of almost exclusively one particular skin color. Chris, especially when he suggested bringing in more people from a different country whose population is more than 90% of a different skin color. Now, he's talking about Norway. Trump said he wanted to bring in more folks from Norway because it's a developed nation with people with education who can actually contribute economically right away to the United States of America. And I responded this way. I do not buy that skin color factors into why those countries are despotic, exploitive, and keeping their people in abject poverty. Skin color has nothing to do with it. Ideology does. Ideology does. The suggestion there are no majority white countries that are poverty-stricken under the yoke of a dictator is absurd. It's patently absurd. As a matter of fact, hold on, guys. This is too good to look. I just came up with this. The idea that there are no majority white nations that don't subjugate and enslave their people under leftist tyranny is absurd. The Prez never mentioned race. And he didn't. He didn't. President of the United States, Donald Trump, speaking of that, language used by me via Twitter, the language used by me at the DACA meeting was tough, but it was not the language used. What was really tough was the outlandish proposal made by a big setback for DACA. So the president's denying that he said S-hole. Because of the Democrats not being interested in life and safety, DACA has now taken a big step backwards. The Dems will threaten shutdown. But what they are really doing is shutting down our military at a time when we need it most. Get smart. Make America great again, says the President of the United States. 281-558-5738, 281-558-KSEV. Look, I was reminded about this yesterday, and I probably should replay this. When I was on the Blaze, I was filling in for Dana. And remember when Trump said that the Latino judge that he was before couldn't give him a fair trial because Trump was talking about securing the border, and because he was a Latino, he couldn't give him a fair trial? To which, as you all know, being your Liberty Loving Latino, I took umbrage with. I said, wait a minute, this very show busts that narrative that somehow Latinos are pro-breaking the law and pro-illegal immigration. That's absurd. And I took the president to task for it. He's a candidate then. But I said to him, the reason why this judge is a threat to you is not because he's a Latino, it's because he's a leftist. The judge was a member of groups that are racist groups. La Raza. La Raza is a group of loudmouth leftist Latinos. Many of them view white people as the great Satans, and they're just as bigoted and racist as the KKK is. Many of these people who populate La Raza. And La Raza, as a matter of fact, right here in Texas, there is a professor, a left-wing professor up in UTA, I believe, University of Texas at Arlington. His name is Angel Gutierrez, if I remember correctly. And this guy called for the killing of white babies. Real prince. And he was honored by La Raza, the same group that this judge, this Hispanic judge, had affiliation with. So it's not by mechanism of the fact that he was a Latino that Trump wasn't going to get a fair shake. It was the mechanism of the fact that the judge was a leftist. So anyway, 281-558-5738. And again, I want to remind you, and the Chris Salcedo Show agrees with Steny Hoyer, the Democrat, that Nancy Pelosi's comments about 5 white guys were patently offensive. And Steny Hoyer, the number 2 Democrat in the House, said they were offensive. Speaking of Democrats, Henry Cuellar will be coming on the Chris Salcedo Show in the second hour, so make sure you guys are here. He is a border Democrat who is one of the few Democrats this liberty-loving Latino actually trusts. He's not an anti-gun nut. He believes in self-defense, and he doesn't believe in open borders. I've suggested to him on many occasions he's in the wrong political party, but he won't listen. Willie, glad you made it here, the Chris Salcedo Show. Welcome.
Are you serious, Chris?
I just made a lot of salient and great. Hold on, Willie. I just made a whole lot of salient and fantastic points. You're going to have to be very specific about what you're talking about.
Shithole country, Chris. Poverty, Chris, don't have nothing to do with character. Poverty don't have nothing to do with dignity. Poverty don't have nothing to do with hard work, Chris. Are you serious, Chris?
Poverty has everything to do with. Well, hold on. No, Willie. No, I didn't say. First off, I didn't say any of that. Here's what I said: that left-wing extremist policies has to do with poverty. That dictatorships has to do with poverty. Terrorists has to do with poverty. These are the despotic regimes that Donald Trump was calling out. The Haitian government is as corrupt as any Democrat-run city in this country.
This country got rich off of slave labor and cheap labor. This guy got rich. Whether the shithole.
Watch the language on the S. Just say S, will you? It is FCC regulated here.
Okay, this country got rich off of slave labor. What is a toilet bowl in, Chris? How did he get rich?
Well, guess what? Guess what? Haiti's still doing that, and guess who's running Haiti? Other black people.
Guess who?
Other black people.
What they got to do? Who's running it, Chris? Who's running this?
They're enslaving their people. They're enslaving their own people, Willie. They're enslaving their own people. Is that right? No, my point is, no, wait a minute. No, my point is that despots are despots. Dictators are dictators. Corrupt people are corrupt people. Has nothing to do with their skin color. You're sitting there telling me, wait a minute, listen to me. Are you telling me that only white people have the ability to be dictators and corrupt? Is that what you're saying? No. I asked you a specific question. Are you saying that?
I'm telling you what I'm saying. I'm saying he affiliated Africa, Haiti, dark countries with corruption. That's why they poverty kicked them out. What I'm telling you, this country went through the same thing.
So I get it. I get it. Okay, Willie, I misunderstood that simply because the despots are of a certain skin color, if they're a black despot or they're a black dictator or they're a black terrorist, that makes it A-OK. And the president of the United States shouldn't say anything about it. Gotcha. Thank you, Willie. Back in a minute, everybody. The Chris Salcedo Show on the Voice of Texas.
Such a big fool you are. Such a big fool.
We're in the second hour of the Chris Salcedo Show. There are folks out there who are saying because these countries were majority countries of color, that's what President Trump meant. So the assumption is that, hey, if these countries are run by people of color, brown or black, well, naturally they must be despotic, poor, yada, yada, yada. The assumption that the best that people of color can do is poverty, is despotism, is terrorism. I mean, who's being the racist? Those who are making these assumptions about these majority people of color countries? It's a joke. Now, granted, folks, simply because a country is majority white doesn't mean it's going to be prosperous. The converse is true. Simply because a country is majority black or majority brown doesn't mean it's going to be destitute. The determining factor in all of this, ladies and gentlemen, is ideology. Are you a left-wing freak? Are you a radicalized Islamic fundamentalist kook? Are you a despot, a dictator? That is going to be largely determinant on how prosperous the rank and file in your country are. And assigning a skin color to it says more about the left wing in this country than it does about Donald Trump or you or me. 281-558-5738, 281-558-KSEV. Fred, thanks for hanging on. What say you?
Good morning, Chris.
Hey.
Couple of things. First of all, it still seems like the second half hour of your show to me. I'm still not quite...
Still working into it. I understand.
Still working, yeah. But the reason I'd call was about Donald Trump and his comments yesterday.
Right.
I still wish he would stop shooting himself in the foot like that. If he wants to say something about a-holes, why don't you go talk about the people that are working on his immigration bill, handing him amnesty? And the same thing, really.
He was saying S-holes, but he could have changed it to a-holes, I suppose, and then talked about these outrageous proposals being offered by pro-immigration, illegal immigration Republicans and lawless Democrats. I think that might have been a better place to focus his ire.
and that leaves the most of the media talking about that.
Yeah.
And as far as this, worries, of course, about the government shutdown, he can just go ahead and explain that it isn't a shutdown and on and on and on. But his focus ought to be on getting the right kind of bill, the kind he ran on, the kind he won on. Send me that, I'll sign it. Send me something else, I'll veto it. And that's the way I think what he ought to be doing.
I understand, Fred, but that's not who he is. And he's going to give blunt talk, and this is just who we're in for. Now, is it my preferred mode of communication? No. Does the United States, the average citizen here in the United States, understand precisely what he was talking about? Yes. Now, say what you want to about it. Oh, I don't like that kind of language from my president, and it allows the biased reporters like Jim Acosta of CNN to tee off on him. I understand all of that, but is he hurting himself with the American people? I think that's a fair question. I know that the elites in D.C. don't like him, but is he hurting himself with? I mean, you have basically said you agree with the sentiment. You just don't like the way he said it, right?
No, that's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is I'm fine with the wording.
Oh,
just put the wording on where it belongs. Put the wording on Jeff Flake. That's great.
Okay. All right. Well, all right. Well, then I apologize for misunderstanding your point of view, but I got to tell you that I wish he wouldn't say this in the way that he did. That being said, the sentiment was spot on. It is a fair question for the United States to ask. How much poverty should we be importing into our country? It's fair. Fred, thank you for the call, man. 281-558-5738. 281-558-KSEV. Daryl, welcome to the Chris Salcedo Show.
Hey, good morning, Chris.
Hey.
I don't have a problem with what the president said. I'm really kind of glad that somebody's finally got the cojones to say it like it really is,
Yeah.
It is. I mean, those countries, they don't do anything for themselves. They expect us to support them and everything else. So, I mean, I don't have a problem with what he said. I'm kind of glad he said it, to be honest with you, because and Willie coming up with the race card, you can't say anything. I don't like the color of Coca-Cola because it's brown. Oh, that's racist.
No, wait a minute. You could just say, I don't like Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola is an S-hole drink. And they're going to say, what? You don't like it because it's brown? Is that why you don't like it, because it's brown? It's like, no, I just don't like the taste. So when you sit there and you call a country an S-hole country, could it have something to do with the way the dang country is run? Could it possibly have? No, we can't examine that. We have to look at skin color first. That's the intellectual heft of Jim Acosta.
Let's pull the race card first, and then we'll worry about what he really meant when he said that.
Oh, no, and they never worry about what he really meant. They just want to drive this narrative that he was a racist. That's all. That's all they want to do.
I've got a solution for the DACA deal, Chris.
Yeah.
It's called adopt an illegal or adopt
a dreamer. Adopt a dream. Yeah, adopt a dreamer. Somebody called in with the same concept yesterday. Now, why are you so enamored with this concept?
Well, the reason I say, I called in about 3 months ago or so with the same deal. I don't remember if it was you or Lance, but anyway, all you got to do is, because you got how many DACA people? How many do you think? About
800,000. They say, maybe a little more.
How many people want to let them stay?
Well, I said I don't even know if that's a fair question, because I think you have to understand that that's all contingent. I wouldn't mind them staying in this country if I could be assured that 20 or 30 years now we wouldn't have 800,000 more. And that means we have to stop illegal immigration. So if we stop illegal immigration, reform legal immigration, then I'm like, okay, I think we can do something for the DACA kids.
So, let me ask you a question then. How many people do you think would support them to, support to let them stay? So there's 800,000. I'm trying to get to a little math deal.
Well, no, I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying it's all contingent. This is a complicated issue, and it's all contingent on what is done to prevent this happening in the future. But let's just make it simple and say that 800,000 people would be needed.
Okay.
And don't forget, many of these folks are in their 30s.
Sign up. They have to sign up to be a sponsor. Okay, I'm going to sponsor them, and I'm going to be responsible for everything they do. If they commit a crime, I go to jail right next to them. If they can't afford to pay their rent, I pay their rent. If they really want those people in this country like that, then let them sign up for it and let them be responsible. Because you know what, Chris? I didn't bring them over here. I didn't make those kids, and I'm sick and tired of paying for them.
Well, I couldn't. Yeah, and actually having our citizens pay.
I'm 62 years old. I don't even know if I'll get my Social Security because we're giving it to everybody else that's got their hand, has got their hand out. Look, and, I think, like I said, if you feel that strong about it, I'm talking about the politicians, the people that have the 9,000 square foot mansions, the actors and all that. Well, just go ahead and adopt them. Adopt as many as you like, but you're responsible. They commit murder, you go to jail for murder. They can't pay their rent, you pay their rent.
There are not enough left-wing extremists in this country to adopt all 800,000. First off.
Well, they're just all mouth is what they are.
Exactly. That's what I mean.
Great.
They're only you probably couldn't get a majority of the Democrat Party to put their money where their mouth is because they're too busy putting other people's money where their mouths are.
That's always just like all these little protesters. They'll get out and scream for this, but put them on the spot. Well, go out and do something. That's just like the kneelers. Well,
yep.
Go out and put all your money together and go build 1 million schools for the minorities and all that other stuff. Will they do it? No.
Well,
it's cheaper for them to kneel on a football field than it is to put their money where their mouth is.
Remember the good old days, Daryl? Remember the good old days when kneelers were, something in the pews at church? Remember that?
Yeah, exactly. Or you prayed before you played football that nobody got hurt and everybody went home safe.
Yeah, well,
anyway.
Today's modern.
It's Friday. It's cold. It's 28 degrees out where I'm at, and I just had to vent. So
all right, buddy.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Daryl. 281-558-5738. 281-558-KSEV. Remember the good old days when kneelers meant, church services and not the National Football League disrespecting the flag, the anthem, and the country? All right, 281-558-5738. When we get back, we'll get more of your calls in, and I'll get some of these sound bites in, Pelosi and the reaction to Donald Trump's words yesterday. And there's some other serious stuff we got to talk about. Coming up at the top of next hour, 8 o'clock hour, we will have Congressman Henry Cuellar talking about his discussion. He was in the room that day with that extraordinary open meeting on DACA and illegal immigration. It's all coming up. The Chris Salcedo Show here on The Voice. It's crucial that we figure out what's happening with terrorists. However, during the Obama administration, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Program was turned inward to spy on Americans. Guys, there's a Salcedo Show axiom about Obama himself, the only one I've dedicated exclusively to him, that Barack Obama took problems and made them into full-blown catastrophes. That was his gift. So Barack Obama took a program that was designed to spy on our enemies and turn them on to us. This is what Obama did. He made the government the enemy of the American people. We see that with Peter Strzok. We see that with James Comey, Brennan, Clapper, and the corruption of the intelligence agencies. The corruption of the leadership of the military, swapping out pro-American generals with globalist generals. We've detailed this throughout the years in the program. So yesterday, the House reauthorized the 702 surveillance program without any protections for you and me, for our government spying on us. Rand Paul in the Senate is already pledging he's going to filibuster this. But Judge Andrew Napolitano, who's a libertarian very much in the vein of Rand Paul, had this to say about this FISA program on Fox. Listen.
He obviously was watching. It's flattering to know that he was watching. He's stated many times that he watches that show, and I'm a regular on it on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I've also been railing against the FISA law since it was first enacted. Because
he's talking about Trump. Trump watches Fox and Friends, as do I. That's how I start my day, making sure that we're on the same page, because they got a lot of good people that do a lot of good work over there, and I'm not just saying because they called me to be on the show. But yeah, I was watching Fox and Friends long before I was on their show. So the president watches, I watch, a lot of you folks watch before you leave the house. And Andrew Napolitano was making his comments about the FISA program.
As it permits federal agents to spy on Americans. This one is the worst of all because it permits the FBI to have access to the database and to use it in criminal prosecutions. That's an end run around the Fourth Amendment. When the British government did this to the colonists, we took up arms against them. This is the most serious violation of the civil liberties of law-abiding, innocent Americans since the Alien and Sedition Acts punished speech.
All right, so that was Andrew Napolitano's take. President hears that and he says, man, this is exactly what's happening to me. This was Barack Obama used these laws and then turned them against me to illegally surveil my campaign. Hillary Clinton purchases a opposition document from the Russians. DNC purchases an opposition document from the Russians. Bunch of lies. Barack Obama and his minions, Clapper and Comey and Brennan, elevate a piece of trash to an intelligence document. And then that's a predicate to spy on Americans. And Trump says, man, this happened to me. So I don't like this. So Trump tweets about it. Problem is, his official position throughout his administration and throughout the weekend is that we need this surveillance program. And at bottom, he's right. I think we need this program, but we need protections for American citizens. Because as Barack Obama and his administration proved, those protections are easily circumvented. Barack Obama didn't have the integrity to protect the rights of American citizens. Of course, he doesn't believe in any restrictions the Constitution placed on him. Why should he start with our rights? So Trump tweets this out, but this administration wants the renewal to keep us safe from the terrorists. Again, I'm not poo-pooing the entire program. Just because we saw so much rampant abuse by Democrats in the last administration, we, the people, need to be protected from any future Democrat who may get the reins of power. We need to be protected because Democrats, as they always do, will abuse that power. So in the press briefing yesterday, Sarah Huckabee Sanders fields a question from little Jimmy Acosta, the biased reporter over at CNN. And they have this fascinating exchange.
There seems to be a pattern, and correct me if I'm wrong, if there is no pattern, where the president watches something on Fox and Friends and then he tweets about it. Apparently this morning, one of their personalities, Andrew Napolitano.
Actually, he's a judge. Yes, he does have a personality, Jimmy Acosta, but couldn't you give the man his due and call him? He's also a judge. He has experience on the bench. Well, of course, Jimmy Acosta, never a guy for details when it matters.
Said that this is not a good deal and don't do this. And then he went on Twitter and tweeted about the FISA program. There have been folks out there who have said, there's a cause and effect. He watches something on Fox and Friends and then he tweets about it.
So, some people out there, not Jimmy Acosta, ladies and gentlemen. Jimmy Acosta didn't take offense to this whatsoever, that the president watches Fox and Friends. Folks, I used to do what Jimmy Acosta does. I know these techniques. Some people, not me, just some people are upset about this, and they're observing this. What a joke Jimmy Acosta has devolved into.
Is that what happened this morning, and does that go on?
I'm sure you're disappointed he's not watching CNN.
I think he watches a lot of CNN, if you don't mind me.
I think he watches a lot of CNN, he says, if you don't mind me saying. And, of course, the rest of the press corps, who are big fans of the biased left-wing presentation that CNN does, they all chortled and they all laughed. But Sarah Huckabee got in the last word.
I don't think that's true. Your numbers would be higher.
Oh, that was beautiful. That Sarah, I like Sarah Huckabee Sanders. I like her a lot. Let's just listen to that whole exchange again, shall we?
In fact, he watches something on Fox and Friends, and then he tweets about it. Is that what happened this morning, and does that go on?
I'm sure you're disappointed he's not watching CNN.
I think you watch a lot of CNN, if you don't mind me.
I don't think that's true. Your numbers would be higher. In reference to the question specifically, no, let's not. In response to the question, as I just said, the president has a great deal of understanding. This is top of mind. He was talking about it last week. He is issued a presidential memo on it. So it's not something that just happened this morning. This has been an ongoing discussion and something of great importance. The president doesn't believe that Americans' rights or liberties should be abused, but he certainly believes that Americans should be protected.
Okay, so that's the position he's staking out. Many people believe that he was this is the narrative they're putting out. Oh, he watches Fox and Friends, then he tweets. That the president really doesn't value the 702 program. That he just watches Fox and Friends to actually dictate how he's thinking. Even though there's a track record, there are memos of the president being very concerned because he's been the victim of the abuse of these programs. The abuse of these programs by Democrats. Sarah Huckabee Sanders refusing to buy into the MSNBS narrative. Her name is Hallie Jackson, about Trump's tweet about the 702 surveillance program. They're trying to push the narrative. The Wolf Book got debunked earlier this week. Here's the effort by Jim Acosta and the effort by Hallie Jackson over at MSNBS to try to get back the, oh, he's an incompetent boob narrative. Listen.
Before I do, I'm hoping you can clarify something that you've said a couple of times now, which was that a lot of people were confused by that tweet. So Mike Pompeo...
Actually, I didn't say a lot of people. You guys said a lot of people were confused.
We weren't confused, but some of you were.
Some of you said.
Yeah. So I want to ask about that, because Mike Pompeo was obviously out talking about this, pushing for this. Tal Barsh, a lot of people in the president's administration were representing the president's position on this, that he wanted this to pass. His tweet today was confusing. It was contradictory. It just was. So how are people supposed to trust, not us as reporters, but lawmakers, stakeholders, policymakers, that the people representing the president's position actually are?
See, it's impossible to, in the minds of Hallie Jackson and other simpletons like Jim Acosta, to say, you know we need the 702 program, but I have serious concerns about the privacy of American citizens. You know what I think is really going on here? This is also Hallie Jackson and Jimmy Acosta trying to head off the fact that their buddy Barack Obama abused Americans' rights by utilizing these very programs. So they don't want to even acknowledge there's a legitimate case here for libertarians and for privacy hawks to be concerned. And I think that every American should be concerned. Look how easily Barack Obama turned the American government against us. That can't be allowed to happen again under any administration. We'll let this play out. Coming up next, more on the Chris Salcedo Show. And don't forget, top of the hour, Henry Cuellar, a Democrat. We'll talk about what happened in that border meeting with President Trump. Coming up on the Chris Salcedo Show. A minute. This is Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Hold on.
I think that the premise of your question is completely ridiculous and shows the lack of knowledge that you have on this process.
I think we got to work on getting Sarah out of her shell a little bit. Telling folks what she really thinks. Now, again, she refuses to buy Hallie Jackson's of MSNBC's premise that the president is somehow not informed about this subject matter. It's like she's this is probably the fifth or sixth time she's answered this question in the briefing, number one. Number two, she said, look, the president has put out positions on this already, concern about the abuse of domestic surveillance by foreign surveillance apparatus. This isn't new. Where you been, Haley? So she finally got tired of it and just said, Haley, I just think you're ignorant. You're ignorant.
I've tried several times. I'll do it a 10th time here. Look, the president supports the 702, but he has some very strong concerns about the FISA program more generally. Again, this is why he put out a memo last week outlining such, and why the D&I director put out a new policy this morning. I'm not sure what the confusion is there.
I just want to be clear, Sarah, before I ask about Officer Drilling, that you definitively are saying that the president's tweet this morning was, in your view, not at all confusing and not at all contradictory. You think that's an accurate statement? I just want to be very clear about this.
No, it wasn't confusing to me. I'm sorry if it was for you.
Basically calling her a dummy. I don't know what you don't understand, Haley Jackson. I don't know what you don't get. The president believes in the value of the 702 program, but has concerns about its abuse because of what we saw from the last administration. Can you wrap your head around it, Haley Jackson? Hello? It's so infuriating, these people. 281-558-5738, 281-558-KSEV. Hey, Patrick, welcome to the Chris Salcedo Show. Glad you made it.
Hey there. How's it going this morning, guys?
Thank you very much, sir, for being here. I'm doing fine. Happy Friday.
Hey, same here to you and to all your listeners. Hey, listen, the comment, the statement that Trump made yesterday, I'm talking about when he said that, the CS word about the continent of Africa
and Haiti.
You and I, and Haiti. Look, well, I mean, I'm not going to say that was a racial thing, because it was not.
No.
But my thing is that if he did make that comment, I mean, I just want him to think about other countries that's going to look at this president here and say, well, I mean, couldn't he have chose a better word to use? Now,
hold on, Patrick. Before you go on from that point, so you're saying that you're concerned about how other countries would feel being called S-hole countries by the current president, right?
No, not. Not so much as feelings what they think about Americans. But what I'm saying is that when push comes to shove, if they need our backing up, for example, like if we have an emergency or a catastrophe, they're gonna turn around and say, look here, they might use a different kind of tone or language to say the hell with America or whatever.
Well, look, Haiti and Africa are net takers from prosperous countries like the United States, and there's the reason why. It's because the United States is predicated on freedom and liberty, and those countries are not. They're predicated on corruption. They're predicated on left-wing Democrat politics. They're predicated on despotism. And I'm covering all of the countries in the continent of Africa, Haiti. I'm trying to cover them all with the problems. Radicalized Islamic fundamentalist terrorism is a problem. Despots, dictators, left-wing policies. That's their problem. It's the reason why they're not prosperous. So,
right.
what I want to say to you is that if you see the government of Cuba that exploits and murders its own people to keep itself in power, I have no problem with a president of the United States calling out that government and being mean and frank about who those governments are. And I don't care whether they help us if we have a catastrophe or not.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my view. But go ahead, make your second point.
Okay, and my second point is that with the news reporters when they have a press conference stuff like this here, it would help the American people out a lot if they would just stick to make their point and stick to the agenda, what the president wants to get accomplished. If you want
wait a minute. That's not the press's job. And to be fair, carrying the president's water is not what the press's job is. The press's job is to say, here's what was alleged to have been said. Here's a reaction from this person, a reaction from this person, and that's it. But Jimmy Acosta, and I'm assuming that's who you're talking about, decides he wants to give his own opinion about what he thinks. And Jimmy Acosta has a very elevated sense of self. When somebody tunes in to watch a news program, nobody's interested in what the reporter thinks. We don't want their opinion. We just want the facts. Now, if you want to tune in for opinion, you're in that kind of thing, you'll go to a talk show like mine. If Jimmy Acosta ever gets his own left-wing talk show, then people will tune into him because they want to hear his opinion. But when you're tuning into a news show, you don't care what the reporter's opinion is, and you shouldn't. You should just want the facts. Last thing I want you to get to weigh in, Patrick, here is this statement by Nancy Pelosi. I want to get your reaction. Here she was yesterday talking about those working on the immigration bill.
I would say of that McCarthy, the five white guys, I call them, I thought they're going to open a hamburger stand next or what?
The five white guys. What do you think of that statement?
Not only I want to beat up on the press, but I want to beat up on people like Nancy Pelosi and them, because again, they try to make statements and say things it's just ridiculous. It makes no sense at all.
Would you say that was racist? Would you say that was racist, Patrick? Identifying that, basically insinuating that white guys can't come up with a good immigration bill?
That is not. That's beyond racist. To me, it's just ignorant.
Yeah, I agree with you. Hey, look, man, I hate to cut you off, but I got the music playing, so I got to scoot. Hey, great weekend, Patrick. I enjoyed the conversation. Don't be a stranger here to the program. 281-558-5738, 281-558-KSEV. From a Democrat I don't respect in Nancy Pelosi to a Democrat I do respect. Henry Cuellar on next, The Chris Salcedo Show on the Voice of Texas. And that's going to do it for The Chris Salcedo Show worldwide for this evening on the Vida television network. Weigh in anytime on the program on Twitter at Chris Salcedo TX. And you can leave voicemail or email at chrissalcedo.com. We'll see you next time for The Chris Salcedo Show worldwide here on the Vida television network.